Magic is organizing chaos. This requires two things: balance and control. Without them, chaos will kill you.
Hello, and thank you so much for clicking onto this video. Today, we are breaching the topic of who really is in control of your mind. Is it you who you are, the learned you who has been through experiences, who is matured from childhood, who is matured from your conditioning, or is it the you that reacts from a place of animal-like quality? We've all been there. The animal-like quality does come out. So today, the topic really is facing your animal self versus your human self. So how are we going to break this down? What are those two things? How can you tell the difference between one and the other? And lastly, is there a way to change which one you choose and even what those two things look like? Let's find out. So, the animal self. The animal self is who we are when we react impulsively. It's who we are when we react without necessarily using logic or reasoning. It is that automatic feeling that you get, and yes, it's a feeling, it's an emotion, it is visceral and physical as much as it is something that may require you to speak words, therefore using thought. So with this, we have the animal self. It is something that is evolutionarily programmed within us. It is something that is an evolutionary marvel, really, its intelligence. And in the state of who we have been up until this point in the scheme of the animal kingdom, it has served us well, because those feelings that we get that have us make immediate reactions are actually serving us by telling us that we are in danger, or perhaps that we need to fight or flight. Now, does that mean that we should be taking that at face value? No. We need to be taking that and learning that, yeah, it is going to teach us things and actually help us a lot in our journey of knowing ourselves. But ultimately, reacting from an animal state in a human society is the reason why a lot of us get into a lot of strife and suffering. That's because the society that we live in is not something that we have very much evolved or equipped ourselves to live in. Yes, we've been doing it for thousands of years. Yes, we have developed psychology and philosophy, but no, that doesn't mean that it is ingrained within our visceral reactions. It's just not. Now, what is the difference between the animal self and the human self? It's just that. It's psychology. It is community. It's a little philosophy. It's that abstract thought that we use in order to create strong interpersonal interactions and relationships. So if I want to have good relationships or even just good interactions, maybe it's, a business thing as well. Acting out of my animal mind, though there is a corner of the internet that will argue that that is alpha, that is not going to get us very far. It's not going to help us gain respect. It's not going to help us really at all. We got to get into that philosophy, that psychology, that human mind. And now that is a big subject, but let's talk about it. So there's a contrast, this immediate reaction versus a reaction, or maybe even just a school of thought that we have, our belief system, etc. Those are two separate things. And what separates the two? How long does it take? It doesn't take long. In my experience, and backed by a lot of evidence, it really can only take a breath between you having your conventional reactions that you feel you have no control over, that are highly emotional, and coming to a place where you have made a decision, or at least just a path forward or into something that may have been a struggle. And that path through or in is one that is practical and effective versus one that is reactionary. It's seductive to be reactionary because, again, there is this trope of it being a powerful thing. And yeah, our emotions are a powerful thing. But our emotions, if they are left unchecked, they are going to wreak us havoc. If I'm in a meeting and, say, for example, I get interrupted in the midst of a presentation that I have going on, and someone kind of wants to take that as an assist and dunk on a subject, even though I'm in the middle of a presentation, if I see that happening, taking just a breath can be the difference between my programmed reaction that I would normally implement and handling that situation effectively. Now, what's my reaction like? I can speak for myself, and everybody is different. My reaction, I think I'm definitely more flighty. Like, I am the type of person that does not want to hang around for some bullshit. I just don't. Like, if you have some bullshit for me, like, I'm probably more than likely to kind of come into myself and get away.
Right, Rex? Well, no, I don't like confrontations.
Because I don't want to deal with it. Like, who really does want to deal with it? But, as much as that might be a peaceful approach, that is also a way for me to run away from problems. No, I might not have asked for X problem to occur, but it's there and it's in my life. So I have to decide who I want to be. Do I want to be the person that runs away and kind of comes within themselves and deals with it internally? Or do I want to assert maybe a boundary? There are going to be times when it's not worth it to assert your boundaries or whatever. But when it is worth it, that is you having a chance to affirm a sense of self. And that is going to do you well effectively in your relationships, in your professional life, even with your hobbies and your creative pursuits. It's easy to kind of let it roll off your shoulder, like water off a duck's back. But how many droplets can you take before it starts getting to you, before you're fucking wet? If you're completely immersed in this experience of feeling unjustified all the time, that's gonna get to you. And definitely it's gotten to me before, because again, my visceral reaction is to internalize. Now, an opposite would be someone who is very fiery, and definitely part of my growth experience has been implementing a little more of that fire, which means identifying my preferences, my rights, and my emotions, because before I was living all up here, and now I'm living in my emotional body a little more, which is healthy. A lot of wisdom in the emotional body, animal body. But those people, they live in that body, right? Like their main experience is that body. They have a fiery temper. There is power to fire. There's also power to grounding too. But if we take just the raw fire, then that can end up being a destructive situation. You end up creating fear. You end up creating big walls around the people that you are dealing with and the situations that you're dealing with. And really, like, you're burning up the potential to learn from things because you are just so powerfully putting out a signal, and that signal is incomplete. It's not an insightful signal. It's fully emotional, and yeah, that is insightful, but that's not the whole picture. So for someone in that scenario, if you're in a situation where you are feeling wronged, or someone comes at you with some random bullshit that you never asked for, or what have you, if your initial reaction is to fire and just they got on your nerves, so you're reacting on that nerve, that's not handling it effectively. You may have handled it. You may have caused someone like me the fight or flight reaction, and I might go away. But did we learn anything? Not really. And like, one of the things in life, I think, as you get older is about kind of leveling up your mental game and leveling up your sense of experience. And part of that requires you to take away the things that feel comfortable, whether that is reacting aggressively or what have you, and just getting into a place where you want to learn, inquisitiveness, curiosity. One breath. One breath is all it takes. Man, imagine you're like, the Matrix. He has this innate power where he can just dodge bullets. If people coming at you with bullshit is the bullets, imagine you taking the breath is you pausing time. Because our emotional reactions, they are overwhelming, and it's not something that you can totally even comprehend in the moment, because if you've ever had an emotional reaction, it is physical. It is a physical thing, and it calls you to take some kind of action. It might be crying, it might be running away, it might be yelling, it might be violence, depending on a person's nature. So if we're gonna get past that and kind of deal with it and become more powerful, taking that breath gives you an opportunity to do a couple things. So the couple things that you're gonna see here is, one, clean slate. So you take that breath, and how long does a breath take? Let's do it together. Inhale. Exhale. That was a lengthy breath, but it didn't take that long either. So if all it takes is that 3 to 5 seconds, or even just 1 second, for you to clear that slate of acknowledging the emotions that you have in your body, right? That's clearing the slate. Step 2 is now you have an open cup, and that open cup is willing to receive new information. So instead of the cup being filled with your emotions and your nerves and your instincts and primal being, now it's empty. And it's willing to be filled with psychology and philosophy and reasoning. It really doesn't take long. One thing that I think a lot of us do is we underestimate how powerful the mind is. The powerful mind, dude, like, I could preach about it, I could keep preaching about it. It's powerful. Imagine that your brain is more powerful than most processors you've ever used on a computer. And if you are a gamer and you're playing some new video game with like 120 FPS, then you know that shit is fast and it's crazy these days. Your brain is immeasurably faster than that and immeasurably more skilled than that. So have some faith. Have some faith that that breath is going to give you the chance to empty the slate and fill your mind with new strategies and new ways of approaching an immediate threat. Now, this applies in so many situations. I think professional is a big one, and interpersonal, because, it could very likely be the difference between you being potentially an abuser and being someone who is reasonable and compassionate. And that shit is important. We don't do no compassion in 2020. No, we do not. We also don't do selling ourselves short in 2020. It's dead. You know, your mind's powerful, your breath is powerful, and you have a breadth of experience. You have your whole life of information to draw from, and it only takes milliseconds for your brain to start to make those connections so that you can move forward as an effective human being. That's it. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about here is what kind of constitutes the animal self versus the human self. The animal self, your visceral reactions, that is a mixture of your nature and your nurture. Now, I love going in depth about nature versus nurture. I feel like it's a little incomplete though. I feel like we could go a little bit further, like our minds are programmable. So yeah, you have very strong connections to things that cause emotional reactions and associations that happen from your childhood, that happen from when you were a baby, that when you were in the womb. You have epigenetic expression kind of interplaying with that experience too. And those things make up how you react primally to any situation, really. So, can we change that? I'm gonna say yeah. And, everyone's capacity to become someone who has agency over their own mind, their capacity to do that is gonna be different. It's not gonna be the same for everybody. Some people are gonna be good at it, some people are gonna be terrible at it. Because I'll tell you, the more that you react to your impulses, the less you are trained to handle the fact that you are capable of taking a different approach. And obviously, there are medical factors that come into play, and those are things that are very much outside of people's control. But I think that even if it is just an iota of capacity, we all have it. Even if you deal with something internally or mentally, we all have it. When you get up in the morning and you decide what color of socks you put on, you did it. You did it. So if it's deciding the color of your socks, or, questioning a belief system that you have that dictates your morals and reactions, why not? Why not? Why not lay out the colors of socks that you have? Why not go on your computer and look up the world of socks? Like, there's a whole world out there. You can wear a sock with anything on it. Donuts, foxes, feet. You can wear socks with feet on them. So, hopefully I'm not too far gone here, but I'm saying you have options, and you don't even know what all of your options are until you take the chance to have that inquiry. So it's really addictive to believe our beliefs. It is addictive. It is tied to our ego and the sense of who we are. It's our identity. So, of course, if you've ever seen someone in a situation where they are hard pressed to have their identity in question, a lot of times that is a very stressful situation for people, understandably too, because you've based and built your whole life upon it. I would say the exception is people who are highly humble, I guess, and truly humble. We're talking that's truly what being humble is. The other thing would be introspection. Like if you have a knack for the introspective quality, then you are probably going to know a little bit about questioning your own beliefs and questioning your own habits and being willing to take stock of information and make new intelligent choices based on the information learned. What does this have to do with human versus animal? Because it does. It all has something. Even if I go on a tangent, like I have a point. So this has to do with it because we have the power to overwrite our stock experience. So you came out of the box, you had a specific situation in your life that included people who took care of you, because if no one took care of you when you came out of the box, you die. Just saying. So someone took care of you to some degree, whether that was greatly or negligibly. You were installed with settings or experiences. And then at some point, you start to go on your merry way. Now you have your operating system and you're going at it, you're living your life. And at some point, I think through adulthood, hopefully, like people have come to realize like that not everything that they were pre-programmed with was what was right for them. And we see this all the time. It is what it is. Your parents aren't perfect people. Nobody is. But they did their best, regardless of the fact that you are your own person and what works for you is not going to work for everybody, including them. So now, how do you reprogram? How do you upgrade? How do you update? It's that introspection. And it's easy to say you can learn new information. We all do it all the time. But information from an intellectual level and actually embodying it, and I'm not talking esoterically, like I'm talking like actually embodying new beliefs. Those are two different things. What causes your neurotransmitters to be excited and excreted and received? What causes those things? If we happen to look at something that we have a fear of or that makes us angry, and we can come to realize intellectually that maybe it doesn't need to make us so mad or so fearful, that's step one. And step two is like reckoning with that.
I would just say, stay tuned. The day of reckoning will come.
And like living it day to day. And just to make a physical example, this is, we're shooting the shit here, just so you guys know, like I don't have a script and I'm just talking off the cuff about something that is applicable to most human beings in my experience. So we're going to use a physical example right now. So your brain is an ant farm, okay? And you have pathways in the ant farm. Now, those are your neurological connections firing, and imagine that your ants are the neurons. So the pathways that the ants take mostly, those are very prominent pathways. Accessing them is easy. You can see through them. It is so instantaneous that, bam, it's available to you right away. Now, there's going to be some other pathways that are less traveled, and they probably are harder to get through. It takes the ant a lot more time, effort, energy, willpower, etc., to get through those more kind of dusty pathways, right? Now, imagine that the ants have a choice over what pathways are used, right? So do they continue to use the ones that have just been there the whole time, or is there a new, like, more efficient way that they can get from A to B? And, replace efficient with whatever ideological thing we're talking about here. Now let's say some of the ants decide that there's a new and more efficient way, and they start taking that way. And so at first it's hard for them to do it. It's very tough, but they keep doing it. And over time, that is now a prominent pathway. And that pathway that they used to take, because it is not being used and other things around it are being used, it's starting to, like, again, it's starting to shut down. It's piling up dust. And for a long time, it's probably going to operate just fine. It's going to take a while for that deterioration to happen, and it may never fully happen, but it eventually becomes a little more fuzzy. That's your brain, your belief systems, your habits, how you associate with people, objects, etc. We, to some degree, have agency over how attached to those things we are and how we nurture those associations. So, be a psychonaut for a minute, and even if it's just a minute a day, start with that and see if you can use that to create new ideas. Get inquisitive, start learning about things that you're curious about, that you're not sufficiently educated on. We have the internet, we have books, we have other people to talk to and their experiences and professions. There's no excuse. None. So give it a shot. Give it a try. And just remember that the process from that animal reaction to the human reaction, and the human reaction is usually the way that's going to give you long-term satisfaction, is usually just a single breath, because you're already smart enough as it is.
Not a doctor.
Thanks guys for watching. So liking is a currency, whether you like it or not, no pun intended. So please feel free to show some love. And I got some stuff coming up in the future that I want to share. Some of it has to do with like hacking the body a little bit, for like, if you got big tits, I got a hack for you. And I got some new fun information on skincare, and I also have a project coming up on the fitness industry, my experience, and the fact that it's broken, and there are ways forward that give personal trainers and sort of peripheral professionals a new and better way forward. That thing's gonna take a while, so stick around. You're gonna see it eventually. It's gonna take me some time because I don't want to be serving to you guys, but thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.